Hello guys, welcome back. This game was fascinating because the story completely changed after halftime. Early on, I honestly thought Chris DeMarco had outcoached Stephanie White. It looked like the New York Liberty had everything under control. They jumped out to a double-digit lead, built a 12-point advantage, and Indiana simply couldn't find any rhythm. Caitlin Clark was struggling to get comfortable, Kelsey Mitchell hadn't really exploded yet, and the Fever offense looked stuck. Kelsey wasn't playing poorly, but Caitlin clearly wasn't winning her battle against the Liberty defense. Every adjustment Chris DeMarco made seemed to be working, and it looked like Stephanie White was running out of answers. Then, almost out of nowhere, everything flipped. That's what made this game so interesting. As much credit as Indiana deserves for making adjustments, I also think Chris DeMarco deserves criticism because the defensive strategy completely fell apart once the Fever figured it out. From the opening tip, DeMarco's entire game plan was built around one idea: take the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. Surprisingly, though, they didn't aggressively blitz her. Instead of trapping her every possession, they funneled her toward the middle of the floor. Whenever Caitlin came off a screen, the Liberty guided her toward the elbow area, forcing her into uncomfortable pull-ups and difficult decisions instead of allowing her to attack downhill or launch deep threes in rhythm. For much of the first half, that strategy worked. Indiana's offense became predictable. It felt like your turn, my turn basketball instead of flowing offense. Caitlin couldn't dictate the pace, and the Fever looked uncomfortable. But once the second half started, everything changed. When Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell began sharing the playmaking responsibilities more effectively, Indiana completely changed the way they attacked New York's pressure. The Liberty started using a 2-2-1 zone press, hoping to speed Indiana up and force mistakes before the Fever could even get into their offense. The idea wasn't bad. Normally, the press is designed to make the inbound pass difficult, trap the ball handler, and force risky cross-court passes that lead to turnovers. The Liberty expected Indiana to throw the ball to Caitlin immediately, trap her, and make somebody else create offense. Instead, Stephanie White made one subtle adjustment that completely destroyed the press. Caitlin Clark became the inbounder. That one decision changed everything. Instead of immediately bringing the ball up herself, Caitlin inbounded to Myisha Hines-Allen or another teammate, allowing them to dribble into the pressure first. That forced New York's defenders to commit, opening passing lanes before the ball eventually came back to Caitlin near half court. By the time Caitlin received the ball again, the traps were already broken. Suddenly, she was simply walking across mid-court instead of fighting through double teams. That completely neutralized what the Liberty were trying to accomplish. Credit also goes to Myisha Hines-Allen, who repeatedly flashed into the middle of the floor, giving Indiana another reliable outlet against the press. Every time New York tried to close one passing lane, another option appeared. Most importantly, the Fever never panicked. They stayed calm possession after possession. I honestly don't remember the Liberty generating a single meaningful steal from that full-court pressure. Once Indiana broke the press, New York had no choice but to retreat into its half-court man defense. But here's the problem. The Liberty had spent so much energy pressing that by the time Indiana reached its offensive set, New York looked exhausted. Ironically, the team playing with all the defensive pressure ended up looking more tired than the Fever. Indiana wasn't rushing. They weren't forcing risky passes. They simply walked the ball across half court, organized their offense, and attacked patiently. Considering Caitlin Clark wasn't having one of her best offensive nights, this was exactly the right approach. People will point to her 7 turnovers on the box score, but context matters. If you actually watch the game, Caitlin played much more under control than that number suggests. There have been games where she committed only 4 turnovers, but played far more recklessly than she did here. Against the type of defensive pressure New York threw at her, she stayed relatively disciplined. She didn't constantly hunt impossible full-court passes. She didn't force unnecessary hero ball possessions. She simply kept the offense organized. That patience also allowed Kelsey Mitchell to completely find her rhythm. And once Kelsey gets going, there really isn't much any defense can do. You can't realistically game plan for Kelsey Mitchell. If you overplay her, she'll beat you backdoor. If you give her space, she'll pull up immediately. If she catches fire, she's simply one of the fastest scorers in the WNBA. Sometimes all you can do is hope she misses. That's exactly what happened to the Liberty. Meanwhile, Caitlin slowly worked herself back into the game through her overall floor leadership rather than forcing shots. Then came the fourth quarter. Indiana entered the period trailing by 14 points. At that moment, it felt like they desperately needed somebody to make something happen. Caitlin immediately answered. She attacked the basket for an and one. She knocked down a huge three-pointer. She created another scoring opportunity with a beautiful assist to Aaliyah Boston. Then she buried another massive three. Just like that, all the momentum belonged to Indiana. The Fever suddenly looked confident, while the Liberty looked completely lost. That's why I think Chris DeMarco deserves criticism. I'm honestly not convinced he lasts very long in this job. Maybe some of it isn't entirely his fault. Missing Leonie Febick hurts because she has consistently been one of New York's best Caitlin Clark defenders. But Tanja Laney Hamilton was also not available, removing another elite perimeter defender. Those absences absolutely matter. Then you add the awkward situation where your best defender threw a shoe at somebody last week, and suddenly your defensive depth becomes even thinner. Obviously, we don't know everything happening behind the scenes, so it's difficult to judge every decision. But from the outside looking in, it felt like the Liberty simply tried to copy a defensive blueprint that worked earlier in the season without recognizing how different the circumstances had become. Earlier in the year, they had Satu Sabali, Leonie Febick, and Brianna Stewart anchoring an incredibly athletic zone defense. That version of the Liberty could overwhelm Indiana. This version couldn't. Instead, the top of the zone featured players like Astir and Sabrina Ionescu, and Indiana simply became more comfortable the longer the game went on. The Indiana adjusted. The Liberty never truly countered. That's ultimately why the game completely turned around. Even on a night where Caitlin Clark wasn't at her absolute best offensively, the Liberty devoted their entire defensive game plan to slowing her down, and she still finished with 17 points and 7 assists in a dominant 25-point victory. That tells you everything about her overall impact. She didn't need to score 35 points to control the game. She stayed composed, managed the offense, broke the pressure, and helped Indiana completely flip the momentum. But at the end of the day, this comeback belongs as much to Kelsey Mitchell. When Indiana needed someone to catch fire, she answered every time. So while Caitlin Clark deserves plenty of credit for navigating one of the toughest defensive schemes she'll face all season, shout out to Kelsey Mitchell, because once she got rolling, the Liberty simply had no answer.
Second consecutive 30-point game, fourth overall in the season, tying a franchise record for such games in a single season. Her 41st consecutive double-digit scoring game. And a team, 65 points in the second half is the most points scored in a half in franchise history. So, turn over time.
Good job, Cambridge.
Aaliyah, you've been Kelsey's teammate your entire career. What to you stands out about the work she does that makes her get better as a scorer every year?
Yeah, I mean, it's already hard for people to guard K. Mitch, and I think for her, I mean, she just comes in, she works. Like, she puts her head down, she works, she shows up every day the same way, no matter what, and she just continues to work. And I think you see it when she gets on the floor and she has anyone on an island, anyone in transition. She can just score any way she wants at any point, and so it's great being her teammate.
Kelsey, it doesn't seem like when you hear people rattle off your stats and your numbers that you like to hear praise all that much. Why is that, especially after a game like that?
Definitely grateful, definitely humble. I just think that it's always a bigger purpose behind it. I'm not a stat person. I think obviously we played to win a game, and it comes with scoring points. But I appreciate it. But it ultimately comes down to just not wanting to give in too much and not getting too high, not getting too low. I think that you get too high into it, then you lose your mind, and so I don't want to lose my mind. But I like to think that all the success that I've had lately comes from my teammates, comes from the organization across the board, and I just think it's about chemistry. And I think I want to see them win, and they want to see me win. So it's a good relationship to have.
Kelsey, that third quarter you outscored them 30-12. What kind of changed or flipped for you guys out of the locker room?
I was telling the reporter, I think it was the discipline. I think that when we made, tough shots, tough for, their best players, we ultimately was in a position to be where we need to be offensively. Stewie's great for a reason. Sabrina's great for a reason. I just think that for us, it was about making sure that we made them uncomfortable throughout the course of the game. And I think that you guys saw that.
Kelsey, obviously you love stats, so we got another one for you. I think you're the 4th player in league history with 10 straight games of 20 points or more.
Damn.
Oh, nice.
What has this...
Damn.
She gonna
Girl,
jinx me.
so nice.
She gonna jinx me.
I ain't say nothing. He was him. He should never say nothing.
It's on me, I'll take it.
That's his fault.
What has that stretch felt like on the floor? Like, what feels like is working specifically?
I think it's the flow from getting defensive stops to making offensive decisions. I think that that's where you've seen me be my best. That's where you've seen our team ultimately be our best. I think anytime we're in a position where we can make teams not score or put in a position where it's tough every possession, we get the best of ourselves, and you get the best of me. And I think that the stretch is the stretch, but I think how we get it and the quality of the work that you have to put in to get it is even more important.
Aaliyah, we know that Kelsey's super calm all the time, but what is it like to see her have those funny moments, like after the 4-point play, for example, on the ground, everyone's kind of just messing with her, but it's joy in that moment.
Yeah, Kelsey's insane. I mean, she hits tough shots like that, and she gets up and she's calm, cool, collective. So I think just as her teammates, we just want to show her that, she's really the greatest. And so we celebrate her in those moments. She goes and knocks down her free throws, and we keep it going. But I think once again, it just goes to her focus, her intentionality with everything that she does on the floor, with every shot that she takes. And so it's super fun being her teammate because she just dominates.
For Aaliyah, just when you guys were down, I think it was 15-4 in the first quarter, just what was the message from Steph or from the team itself in starting to build back that lead in order to come back in the second and have that third
Yeah, I mean, our defense was just crappy. That was the message. I think we weren't anticipating any of the passes. We gave up so many open threes. Marine got off so many threes in that first quarter. So for us, it was about making sure that we don't let our defense just take a toll, because obviously that puts us in a hole. And then offensively, we were getting some good looks. I thought we were a little stagnant, and so for us it's about getting the ball popping, getting it moving. But once again, it started on the defensive end, and we got to let that spark our offense.
Hey, Kelsey, maybe you talked about how you're just calm, cool, and collected all the time. I guess who taught you the importance of quiet dominance? Where'd you get that from?
I think quiet dominance is a good word. I just think that it's about. I'm not even a talker. I think. For me, it's about the game, and we ain't talk about anything that got to do with basketball, then we ain't talking at all. I think that's just my mentality. I don't have time to be talking to nobody and celebrating and stuff like that, man. I'll be honest with you, man. They always laugh at me like I'm old, but I really just don't have time, man. It's about me finding the stuff that matters and makes sense. I'm more of a controllable person. I control what I can control, and my game and my work, and being able to have a relationship with my teammates and have a dynamic chemistry with C and 7 is important. And I think that's my controllables. And so, I don't need to do no talking. That's all I'm gonna say. It's better for me to just be quiet and go on about my business.